Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is your Inept General bringing you another Total War Warhammer 2 Legendary Lord lore video. And today we are going to have a look at the newly announced Nakai the Wanderer for the Lizarmen. Now, Nakai is making an appearance in the Hunter and the Beast DLC. His story is an ancient one. To begin it, we have to go all the way back to the year negative 5601 of the Imperial calendar, some 8,100 years before the start of the Total War Warhammer timeline. During this time, the world was ruled over by the Old Ones, ancient godlike creatures that were molding the world however they wanted it to be, and they set into motion what would become known as the Great Plan. In order to achieve this, they started to create certain races, and amongst them were their chief servants, the Lizardmen. Amongst the Lizardmen, you had certain roles filled by certain people. You had the Saurus being the warriors, the Skinks being the brains and the admin of their empire, and you had the Kroxigors, who were the brawn. They moved heavy rocks. They were the construction. And in the city of Tlanxla, the biggest Kroxigor ever spawned, who was also a little bit brighter than his fellow Kroxigar, was Nakai. And by the year negative 5601, Nakai was busying himself away, probably lifting heavy stone blocks, helping build the temple cities, helping carry out the plan of the Old Ones the best way he knew how. At the time, Kroxigors were not initially designed for battle, they really were just designed for heavy lifting, and the world itself was in relative peace, so there wasn't really much battling to be done. He whiled away his days lifting heavy boulders, getting on with his skink attendants, and really just carrying on as a Kroxigor is expected to. Then, the following year, in the year negative 5600, the Great Catastrophe happened. The great dimensional gates that the Old Ones had built at the poles of the planet had exploded, unleashing chaos onto the world, causing demons to spew forth into the material realm and attempt to lay waste to everything in front of them. The Lizardmen attempted to fight back, and this conflict lasted for centuries. Over the next 600 years, however, the relentlessness of the Chaos Forces, their unending numbers, had taken its toll on the Lizardmen. They had turned their once lush and paradise-like jungle into a living weapon against their enemies, making it a harsh and dangerous place to traverse. The Slan Mage Priests, the leaders amongst the Lizardmen, had had their eldest generation wiped out, leaving only younger, less experienced Slan Mage Priests to lead the way, with the exception of Lord Croak, who we've mentioned in previous videos. During this 600 years, the city of Tlanxla, where Nakai made his home, was lost. It was in fact one of the first cities lost under the Great Chaos invasion, and Nakai, along with the rest of the survivors from that city, had really been forced to move along to the next one, fighting along their way, really just trying to hang on for survival at this point, moving from temple city to temple city as the relentless forces of chaos pursued them, taking city after city. By the year negative 4450, there was only a handful of temple cities remaining. The Lizardmen, as well as the forces of order throughout the entire Warhammer world, had been utterly devastated. And the first city of the Lizardmen, Itza, was where Nakai had finally settled for the time being. Then, one day, the forces of chaos were spotted on the approach, and Nakai, along one presumes with other Lizardmen, was assigned to guard an area known as the Bridge of Stars. Now, the Bridge of Stars was a fantastical bridge built over an unimaginably large chasm torn through the earth in the Old One's designs. And on this bridge, Nakai and his fellow Lizardmen stood to face down the approaching hordes. They were overwhelmed. As warrior after warrior of the Lizardmen slew a chaos fiend, there were 6 more to take its place. One by one, each of the Lizardmen fell, leaving only Nakai on the bridge, holding it by himself, as demon horde after demon horde approached. But such was Nakai's hatred for the demons that had destroyed his temple city that he fought with unimaginable ferocity, and by himself he's said to have laid waste to such an unimaginably large amount of demons that even to this day any demonic presence will avoid the area, for they can hear the death knells of their predecessors ringing out down the millennia. Now, what this number was exactly, no one can say. Some have estimated it to be around 5 legions of demons he slew, but at the end of the day, it was all for naught. For Nakai was only guarding one approach to the city of Itza, and all the other approaches to the city had fallen. Then a blinding light from behind him, and that was the death of Lord Croak, summoning down a mighty spell which decimated the demons for miles around. And Nakai found himself alone outside near another ruined temple city. Now, we presume that over the course of the next 30 years, he busied himself fighting where he could, being useful where he could, and eventually by the year negative 4420, the great ritual of the elves took place, and they managed to siphon off all the excess chaos energy of the world, causing the demons around the Warhammer world to fade into nothingness and return from whence they came. After this, Nakai found himself alone, without a city, really just no one to answer to, and he decided to continue this way. He never pledged himself to a slan or a temple city. He would just keep fighting till the Lizardmen no longer needed to fight. And this is the period one assumes where he started to earn his legendary status, popping up all over the place whenever the Lizardmen seemingly needed, and he soon became almost a mythical figure, particularly amongst the skink priests, who thought of him as a spirit of the jungle, a spirit to come to their aid whenever it was needed. And so he continued this lifestyle for many centuries, and it's not until the year negative 951 when Clan Pestilence begins its campaign against the Lizardmen, spreading disease, looking to take over Lustria in its entirety. To meet this threat of Clan Pestilence rose the Prophet of Sotek, and with the Prophet of Sotek's help, the Lizardmen fought back the Skaven until the fateful battle where both sides had gathered their full strength and would face off against each other in the battle that would go on to become known as the Battle of the Red Field. On the eve of battle, Nakai emerged from the jungle's undergrowth to be greeted enthusiastically by the skink priest presence, the sign of the mystical warrior. Joining them on the eve of this fateful battle was truly a sign from the Old Ones that they would be victorious the following day. And so as dawn broke above the jungle, the two armies of Clan Pestilence and the Lizardmen, led by Sotek, faced off against one another. Across the battlefield, two towering creatures. On the side of the Lizardmen, you had Nakai the Wanderer. On the side of Skaven, you had perhaps one of the largest rat ogres ever to walk the Warhammer world, at that time simply known as the Beast of Clan Pestilence. Truly corrupted by whatever foul sorceries these rat men used, this was a rat ogre of immense size, with enormous pustules all over its body, oozing pus and stink as it trunched along with the ranks of the Skaven. These two beasts locked eyes across the battlefield, and they knew that only one of them would be leaving this field of battle alive. As the two lines crashed against one another, the two monstrosities battled, hacked, and slashed their way towards each other, Nakai taking out hundreds of Skaven on his way to face this disgusting beast. The two met in a titanic clash of gigantic weapons, the shockwave knocking over all nearby Lizardmen and Skaven alike. Nakai, the quicker of the two monsters, began to slash and hack at this beast of Clan Pestilence, each wound unleashing a horrible stink and spreading infected flesh all across the battlefield. Nakai could feel himself weakening. He knew he would have to make this quick. And with one immense blow, so fierce that it's said to have sent a shudder across the battlefield, he cleaved down this mighty rat ogre, sending it spiraling to the ground. The sheer amount of gore and pus unleashed exploded all over Nakai. Having the strength to dig deep, he fought for the rest of the battle. But as it became clear this was going to be a Lizardman victory this day, and as the remnants of the Prophet of Sotek's army chased the remnants of Clan Pestilence into the ocean, Nakai collapsed on the battlefield. The foul diseases that Clan Pestilence had inserted into their creature had finally taken their toll on the enormous warrior Kroxigor, and he fell into a deep coma. All the skink priests who saw this ordeal tried to stay behind using whatever healing magics they could to revive Nakai. It took weeks of effort, teetering on the verge of death all the time. No one knew whether this mighty, legendary warrior would survive. Eventually, however, the medicines of the skink priest paid out, and Nakai managed to rise from his bed. Receiving his customary golden tributes from the skinks around him, he marched again back into the jungles of Lustria. If you'd like to hear a little bit more about Lord Sotek and the actual conflict between the Skaven and the Lizarmen, do please check out the Lord Sotek video I've done already, popping up in the top right hand corner now, or you'll find a link in the description below. Following his many adventures, many of which perhaps have never been told, we don't really hear about Nakai again until the year 930, so about 1,500 years before the current Total War Warhammer timeline. In that year, an evil plan was coming to its fruition. The evil vampire lord Luther Harkon had been gathering his strength on the coast of Lustria, on the coast that would one day become known as the Vampire Coast. And he had gathered a huge army of undead to him and was planning to march into Lustria to pillage all the temple cities of the Lizardmen and take what magics he could to make himself an even more powerful vampire lord. It was then that the armies of the Lizardmen got wind of his plan, and there was a colossal effort mounted to fight him off and send him back to the coast, if not into the very sea itself. This army was led by a Slan mage priest by the name of Zletep of Itza, but joining their ranks along the way, they were joined by none other than Nakai the Warrior. The battle itself would become known as the Battle of the Eclipse and took place near Oyoxel, the temple city. The fighting was fierce, but Nakai, along with the Slan mage priests, used their army wisely and managed to fight back Luther Harkon. Not having the strength themselves to finish him off and chase him into the sea, they were able to break the spine of his army, putting his plans back by centuries, if not millennia. Thus, Nakai saved the Lizardmen once again in his noble pursuit of eliminating all their threats. Next, we don't hear from Nakai until roughly around the year 2520, so that really kind of brings us up to, if not a little bit after, the Total War Warhammer timeline. Now, a dark shadow has spread over the island of Albion, and in an effort to combat this shadow and all those who would try to pillage an ancient tool of the Old Ones, known as the Forge of the Old Ones, the Lizardmen established the city. So Mazdamundi, along with the help of Nakai, went over there and established the city of Conquata, the city of resistance, to fight off and protect the tools of their masters in perhaps the vain hope that they may one day return. If not, maybe they may be able to use these tools to fulfill their great plan in the absence of the Masters themselves. And that kind of brings Nakai up to date in terms of all of his adventures and misadventures around Lustria, at least the ones that were perhaps most noteworthy. But he has grown into a mythical figure, not unlike the Green Knight for Bretonnia or the White Dwarf for the Dwarves. Just a legendary warrior of myth, millennia old, and he is just doing his best of helping out his people and the plan of the Old Ones for which he was spawned. And so that is the tale of Nakai. Very much looking forward to getting our hands on him in Total War Warhammer 2. And as always, a huge thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you all on the next one. Alright guys, bye.